Hey, this is Dr. Warren. Happy Monday. Love to see you, and happy Monday to Dr. Steve. I see him. I was remembering back when I was in practice and I was seeing tons of patients every single day. When a new patient would come in extreme pain, they don't want to wait till the next day or 2 days or 3 days to get relief. They wanted to start the healing process right away. And so that's what kind of inspired Dr. Steve and I to come up today with the three chronic pain hacks that you can do today to feel better today. So let's rip.
And again, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Steve, and I'm here with Dr. Tim. We're super excited about today's show. Of course, this is the Ouch Doctor's New Thinking About Old Pain, and we're here to show you how to reframe the way you look at pain so that you have some mastery over it, and you get some long-term relief and the ability to change your life in a very positive way. Please do remember, we're not your doctors, and we disclaim any responsibility for your health. We're here to give you insight and wisdom that you can bring back to your healthcare professionals so that you can get the very best advice and also be able to collaborate with your doctors and your team in a more powerful and positive way. We also want to make sure that you find your way over to YouTube when you get a chance and subscribe to our channel, because that's where you're going to find all of the episodes, past, present, and future. And that allows you to be part of our community. So please do find us there under New Thinking About Old Pain and join our community by just clicking that little red button on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen.
Yes. And normally we have what we call the OBT, the one big thing that we do every episode. And by the way, this is our 17th episode. Woo. But actually today we have 3 OBTs. So you're going to get OBTs all the way through today. So that's cool. And remember, Dr. Steve, I don't remember if you mentioned, but I'll mention it.
Yeah.
Please go to theouchdoctors.com. and emphasis on doctors, theouchdoctors.com, and download our free kit, which is so awesome. It comes in 3 different parts. It's the Freedom from Pain kit, and it has the flow chart, which it makes it easy just to understand and know which direction to go when you might be a little uncertain. A list of all the explanations and definitions of what you need to know. And the third part, of course, is the 14-day Have Your Pain Challenge, which is just an easy breezy way to kind of check and keep yourself on focus to decrease pain at least 50% in 14 days. So take care of that. It's awesome.
Absolutely. So also, one more thing, we want to make sure that you are interactive with us. So if you're here with us today, please, by all means, jump on the comments and ask us a question or add a comment. And we'd love to be able to respond and interact with you as we go along. So we're really glad that you're here, that you're tuning in, you're taking some time to learn more about your health. All right, guys. So today we're talking about the 3 instant pain hacks. As Dr. Tim so rightly put it, when you're in pain, you're not really looking for the long-term solution in that moment. At some point along the way you are, and we're here to help you and guide you to that long-term solution. But we also understand that sometimes the rubber meets the road. That's the moment you're in pain and you need something you can do that will have an impact on your pain. And we're going to share 3 ideas with you today, and each of them comes with its own big tip. Something that you can do. So these are in and of themselves specific ideas and strategies that you can use regarding pain. So the first one we're going to talk about today is being curious about your pain. Curiosity versus control, curiosity versus rejection. I'm going to tell you a story that'll help you understand what I mean by this. Back several years ago was the first time I was introduced to the idea of mindfulness meditation, and I was introduced to it by taking a 10-day silent meditation retreat. Not an easy experience, kind of the boot camp of spirituality. And part of that experience was sitting in a meditation hall with about 50 other people silently for many, many hours at a time. And I was sitting in meditation when right in the middle of one of my silent meditation processes, my foot cramped up. Now, I'm sure all of you have had that experience, right? Your foot cramps up. It's unbelievably painful, right, Dr. Tim? There's nothing worse than a foot cramp. And usually when you get one of those, what you want to do is jump up and down and scream and stretch it. And, often whatever you do doesn't work. As soon as you let it go, it starts to cramp back up again. And I couldn't scream. I couldn't jump up. I couldn't move, basically, because my legs were asleep. And so I had no choice but to do what I was basically instructed to do anyway, which was to just sit and watch life unfold, right? Just sit and watch it go by. And so I had to think to myself, is this even possible? Is it possible to take something as painful as a cramp and just sit through it, to watch it? Now, this is something we never do, right? It's certainly nothing I'd ever done before, but I had very little choice. And so I sat there, and I'm guessing you're wondering what happens if you do nothing with a cramp. Dr. Tim, any guesses what happens?
I'm going to guess it gets worse.
It does. It gets worse. It gets worse, and it gets worse, and it gets worse for about 2 minutes. And your foot cramps and it cramps, and you're sure that it's going to rip the bone off the muscle off the bone. It doesn't. And then after about 2 minutes, it starts to abate, and then it sort of starts to go the other way, and it gets better, and it gets better, and it gets better. And lo and behold, by the end of about 3 minutes, the cramp is completely gone. You've done nothing whatsoever. And all of the work you've done has been in your own head. All you've had to do is to say, watch it, be with it, don't fight it, lean into it, let yourself feel it. Just be curious about it. Where do you feel it? How is it changing? And it's this remarkable, I've got to run from this, but the point we're making here is that there's something transformational about applying a very curious stance to the pain, delving into it. Where do I feel it? How is it spreading? What's the quality of the pain? Is it hot? Is it cold? And bringing your attention into it and keeping your attention in it as it begins to change and unfold. And because you're not tensing up against it, what you're going to find is that within a few minutes, even the worst pain will begin to abate. Most of the pain we have that lingers and lingers and lingers because we're fighting it. I'm going to encourage you to take this first step. So our very first tip to you today is become curious and lean into the pain the way I leaned into my cramp, and let it be that way, and breathe in, and also notice your mental reaction of tension and try to be peaceful with that as well, and see what happens in 2 or 3 minutes. It's pretty mind-boggling. Give it a shot.
Steve, so much. Yeah, I'm with you so much on that. And I think, and more than that, that the idea of being curious about your pain automatically puts you into mind-body healing. Just being curious about it and not labeling it, oh, I've got a cramp in my foot, or my back's killing me, or that goes outside of you. But automatically, by asking that question, is something you can do right in the time you have right this second. And as soon as you get curious, sooner or later, things start to dissipate, because it's a mind-body thing. Because remember from episode 1, our pain is 100% in our brain. It's not in our big toe. It's not in our back. It's not elsewhere. It's 100% interpretation by the brain, and we can influence that. So thank you, Dr. Steve, for number 1. What's number 2?
Well, number 2 is a very special breathing strategy. I'm going to share this with you. I learned this from Wim Hof. Some of you have heard of Wim Hof, the Iceman. I'm so profoundly affected by this approach, and I want to share it with you because, again, this is something that you can do in the moment, and it's something you should be practicing from time to time anyway. I do it every day, and it's a round of breathing, and it goes like this. Step 1 is 30 hyperventilations. Now, the way they work is that you breathe into your belly, up into your chest, and all the way up into your face. So it's kind of 30 repetitions.
A whole body breath is what you're saying.
Whole body breath, all the way up into your face and all the way back down again. And during that round of 30, what you're going to find is you're going to get dizzy. It's going to feel weird. You're going to have some strange sensations in your body. And that's all normal. And it's all exactly what should be happening. And it's, again, something not to become resistant to, but rather to embrace it. Oh, this is the part where I'm going to feel dizzy. It's fine. This is the part where I'm going to feel lightheaded. It's fine. This is the part where I'm going to face is going to get hot. I'm going to feel tingly. It's okay. You're going to do the 30 hyperventilations. Now, when you get to the end of the 30th hyperventilation, as you exhale, as you breathe out, you're going to stop breathing after the exhalation. So it's like this. And then there's no inhalation. Now, at that point, you're going to set a timer. The first time you do it, set the timer for a minute. As you remain on that exhalation, what you're going to find is that there's going to be a tendency for you to want to breathe because it is a reflex and it's a habit. And we feel almost out of fear that we have to breathe. The truth is that after 30 hyperventilations, you absolutely do not have to breathe. And so because you don't have to breathe and yet you want to breathe, you're now playing an interesting game with your own psyche about overriding these habitual tendencies. I'm noticing that I want to breathe, but I don't really have to. So let me just continue staying in this exhalation without doing anything with it. Now, I've personally found that it works best if my eyes are open. Oh, by the way, do this laying down or sitting up. Don't do it standing or walking. You got to be in a recumbent. Exactly. You could fall over. But if you're laying down, there's not very far to fall. So when you get that exhalation and you're timing that period during which you're not breathing, keep your eyes open and look around the room and just sort of have this, it's a very altered state kind of an observation of things around you. You just have this very removed sense of fascination that I've been really enjoying. Now, at some point, all of a sudden you start feeling like, oh, I better breathe again. Don't breathe again unless you absolutely have to. Try to override the reflex and continue to just look around you. Also be noticing the sensations in your body, the unusual sensations, the tingling, the heat, whatever it is, but do it again with curiosity like we did in the first exercise. And after that minute or however long you can go, I'm now, by the way, up to 2.5 minutes. So just know that your body will remain oxygenated for a long period of time after you do that exhalation.
You're saying for 2.5 minutes after the whole body inspirations, you've been able to not have to inspire or expire for 2.5 minutes.
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So a minute is like a cakewalk now, right? Because it's gradually getting used to the fact that this really works. At first, you're not going to think it works and your psychology is going to jump in, but I promise you that it's going to work because it's physiologically sound. And so you're on the exhalation for as long as you can be. And then when it comes time to breathe in, the next thing you're going to do, the next part of the cycle is a very deep breath in, just like the first 30, the very deep full body breath in, and hold it on the inhalation. And hold that for 10 seconds. And at the end of 10 seconds, continue holding it and then bear down. Almost feel like you're squeezing all that air all the way up into your head. And hold that for 5 seconds, 5 more seconds, and then resume normal breathing. Now, let me explain to you why this is a profound exercise. First of all, it has a meditative quality to it. So there is a certain kind of concentration. Secondly, you're developing a greater capacity to overcome aversion, the aversion to not breathing. You know, you're going to be overriding that. And that's a very powerful feeling. It'll make you feel good. But the third part of this, and the reason it's such a profound and immediate pain relieving exercise, is because hyperoxygenating your blood causes your blood chemistry, the pH of your blood, to become more alkaline. Your blood becomes more alkaline as opposed to acidic. And when your blood becomes more alkaline, it is very resistant to pain because most of the inner substances that create pain, that stimulate the nociceptors in your pain cells, are acidic in nature. And so you're hyperoxygenating, you're becoming alkaline, and you'll find that pain just goes away just because your body is more alkaline. So it's a remarkable experience. I just have to jump in, by the way, for a moment and interrupt myself because our good friend Rick Denley is here with us, and Rick is an awesome guy, and I'm so honored that he's joined us here. And I think, you know, he's talking about building up a tolerance and channeling that focus and that energy, and I'm guessing also breathing. And he's an athlete, and he's certainly using these kind of tools in the work that he does as well. So thanks for jumping in, Rick, and sharing your experience as well. So that's number two.
Thanks, Rick. But again, it kind of makes sense that this kind of dovetails with number one, which is be curious, because this, in the breathing part, this is being curious too. And it's turning into, again, so a mind-body kind of correction, but with actual physiological change at the same time. So awesome, man.
Isn't that cool? And of course, go into this knowing that this is going to make the pain go away or dissipate it significantly in a matter of minutes just by following these techniques that we're talking about. And Dr. Tim, you've got number 3 for us today, don't you?
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of just tell a quick story about this. When I was married years ago, my son right now is 28 years old, and we wanted, my wife at the time and I wanted to have a natural childbirth without any drugs or anything like that. One problem is that my ex would be the same. She would admit that she's pretty high strung and stress is a big issue in her life, a lot of anxiety and such. So we had done this particular type of birthing exercise program called the Bradley method. My sister had done it and she said it was awesome. And I've really hardly ever heard about it since. But we did this Bradley method, which is very coach oriented. So I was the birthing coach and my ex was the, giving birth, and we were a team and we worked together. Well, she would describe herself as very anxiety prone, very stressed, but she was on a different planet. She not once complained in over 24 hours of hard labor until the baby was born, and no complaints of pain, no complaints about anything. And it was just because we had these exercises of just toning down the nervous system, distraction, if you will. She completely forgot. She wasn't even on the planet. She forgot she was having a baby. She was distracted, calm, cool, totally distracted from what was going on. And she never commented on the pain that she was in until like a year later. She was like, that was so painful. And I reminded her, not once did she complain about any discomfort or pain during the whole 24 hours of labor. So she remembered it a year later as being painful, but at the time it was a no-brainer. It was just amazing. It was complete mind-body work, relaxation work, just kind of designed to distract from what was going on and stay relaxed, and it totally worked. So that was one thing. And another little quick story about distraction was Dr. Steve and I watched this video, and it was these guys on a YouTube, and they were looking at the pain. They were having a fake tattoo done on a really painful part, very sensory nerve-rich part of their foot. They weren't actually having the tattoo, but they were having all the pain associated with it by a tattoo artist. And one of these guys—
using the needles, but with no ink.
Needles with no ink. So his pain was horrendous, but they weren't getting, tatted for life because of it. So they went two different ways. One guy was saying, I'm just going to swear and scream, and that's going to be the way I deal with it. And the other guy was like, I'm just going to be zen and meditative and mind-body about the whole thing. And so in the YouTube, they kind of kept going back and forth. One guy screaming his head off, and one guy is like totally zen about the whole thing. And Dr. Steve, what happened?
Well, okay, the guy who did the meditative approach definitely did better. But the point they were making also was that the guy who was screaming was also doing pretty darn well up toward the end. And, basically what it was the act of screaming and cursing, and they had to bleep him out the whole time. But I mean, he was willfully, what's the word I'm looking for? Deliberately screaming obscenities. And that was his strategy for not having pain. And it was something like Dr. Tim and I, we were fascinated by that, because in a way, that's also a form of distraction, right? I'm going to distract myself by screaming and yelling. And guys, that's okay too. The point is, you're going to put your attention somewhere deliberately, right?
I would say that the big mistake, we've talked a lot about distraction in different ways. And also being curious about the pain. He was decidedly not curious about the pain. He was just just like experiencing what he perceived as that. If he had taken the time to be curious about it and to say, is this pain or is this discomfort? His level of pain would have decreased properly. But instead, he tapped out, and the mindful guy zenned all the way through it.
So I think the number one here is probably going to be the winner. So Dr. Eric Swanson is here with us, and he was talking about calling this a tattoo placebo. I love it. He's yelling and screaming right now just to get through the show. So you are awesome as well, my friend. This is so cool. So glad to have you here along with us. Boy, I'll tell you what, these are three really powerful strategies. And strategy number one, which is the curiosity leaning into the pain, is almost in some ways the opposite of strategy number three, which is distracting yourself from the pain. But in both cases, they have to do with the willful and deliberate use of your attention. Right. So for me, that last one is what I do when I'm in the dentist's office. Right. And I'm sitting in the dental chair and they're doing all of these things that could potentially be painful, but I'm just looking at the light. I'm just curious about the light. Right. And again, it's this remarkable experience when you decide you're going to focus your attention on one thing, because as Dr. Tim, you remember we talked at one time about how the conscious mind can only hold a very small number of bits of information at a time.
Right.
So it's easy to crowd out something else. I've found this in a number of ways. So for example, we did this with a phone number. I yelled the phone number. I said a phone number and nobody could repeat it because they couldn't remember what they were listening to me talk about and remember a phone number at the same time. Whereas the subconscious mind could remember everything, but the conscious mind, very, very little. And so I've discovered recently that if I'm doing my cold shower, which we'll talk about another time, that one of the ways that works really, really well to dissipate the pain of being in the cold is washing my hair and making sure I'm getting a really good washing, right? I'm just thinking about my head.
Distraction.
I miss a spot, right? And it's distraction. And lo and behold, 2-3 minutes have gone by and I wasn't thinking about the cold. It will work, guys. So those are three things that we'd like to encourage you to try over the next few days, and write to us and let us know how they work for you. They've been really successful for us. And we wanted you to have something that you could do like right away. So give it a shot.
Absolutely. Have
What
fun.
Tomorrow bring for us.
OBTs for today. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Dr. Steve, tomorrow's show?
Oh, okay. Tomorrow's show is what we're going to do, and we're going to really encourage you guys to help participate in this process along with us, because we want to answer your questions. We've given you a lot of content over the course of the last few weeks, and we've come to a point where we feel that if you're a curious person, you've probably had some questions arise, and we want to make it an interactive show. So we're going to do the best we can. We'll have a backup plan. We'll have other things we can talk about, or a riff, right? But if you would, please join us with your questions, with your comments, and let's have a conversation. Let's try to get this thing really interactive, and make sure that by the end of the show, you come away feeling like you've got some real content for yourself that meets your specific needs.
Steve, we got plenty of questions. I've been keeping a log. We've got plenty. We're on it, bro.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, in that case, I guess we could wrap things up here by saying, train your brain.
Lose your pain.
Guys, it's been a great time. We'll see you next time.